Hey guys, what's up? This is Publik bringing you another beta video for Battle for Azeroth. This time we're going to look at Warfronts. I'm going to do this from kind of a Shadow Priest perspective because obviously it's what I play, but I just kind of want to give a brief overview of what a Warfront is and kind of how it works as a Shadow Priest from my standpoint. So if you're not aware, Warfronts are basically a 20-man PvE scenario is kind of how I would describe it, and it's very Horde versus Alliance. I think a good way that I like to describe it is basically it's kind of a battleground but PvE. So if you kind of take a little bit of stuff from like a Wrathy Basin, even like Ashran to a certain extent and that kind of thing, and kind of bunch it all together, but only the PvE elements. When I did this earlier, it was still kind of very beta-y, very kind of buggy, missing a lot of art assets and stuff like that, but you control mines, lumber mill stuff, and there's also different outposts that you control, and the whole goal is to overthrow the other faction. So I play on Horde, so in this case we're looking to overthrow the Alliance base, and that's kind of the whole idea with the Warfront. For me, this took around 50 minutes to complete, so about an hour, and I'd say a lot of that was just because of bad coordination, and on beta when someone left, they didn't get automatically, like if they DC'd or whatever, they just stayed in the group so they didn't get ejected from the game ever. So we had a lot of DCs that were just in the game for like the whole time. So it went a little slow, but you can definitely tell the pacing of the Warfront is kind of what Blizzard wants it to be. It kind of felt like it was noticeably difficult in the beginning, but then the more and more that you were doing the work, like the longer it went on, the easier it got. Like this is how it felt from my end. And it kind of works that way because you're basically building up resources, getting resources, and then making troops, you're making weapons and like even vehicles and stuff like that. So like I said, it's really taken a lot from Battlegrounds and what we've done for Battlegrounds for years. So that's kind of the whole idea here. And eventually you would have a bunch of troops that go out. You'd have a bunch of like their weapons would be upgraded, that kind of thing. And you can also buff yourself. So the main resources they use here is iron, which you start accumulating once you get the mine, and then you get like there's some weird rate, but you basically get a rate of iron every few seconds or whatever, and you can go pick it back up at your base, and you can use this to upgrade your base and all kinds of different things. So you can see on the screen now there's a bunch of different visuals of me doing some of this stuff, and you can notice a lot of the assets just are not showing up right now in beta, so it's pretty minimal. So there's no like there's not actually a base, there's just NPCs that kind of act as the base for right now. So and that's kind of the whole idea with this. So you can see I'll be depositing iron or getting iron, and then you can talk to different NPCs and basically get different things out of that. Some of these things were pretty bugged, like after you upgraded your fortress high enough, like you couldn't do some of these things. But the idea is pretty straightforward of just you're upgrading your base and then going out and to the various different outposts to try and capture them. And it wasn't I kind of expected this to be a bit kind of straightforward, like you just go like boom boom, like keep going to each objective. But even after you take an objective, the Alliance has a chance to take it back from you, so you really got to kind of plan where you want to put your team and kind of who goes where, if you're going to divide and conquer, if you're going to put everyone in one area. Otherwise they'll just take it back over again. And like this does get easier over time, but there was a few things that we took and then kind of left to go do something else, and then we came back 2 minutes later and they had taken it back. So you definitely have to kind of be smart about what you're doing and how you're planning this kind of thing. And one thing to note, you can't control where your troops go. So you'll recruit troops and they kind of just do their own thing. You can't like direct them where to go, at least from what I could tell. So you're kind of at least at the start, you're kind of, you have to do what they're doing because, things hit hard. So you're either going as a group or you kind of roll with your troops. So that's kind of an interesting little thing there. And there's also no real way to track anything right now. So there's no way to say, oh, how many troops are coming or what's the cooldown on stuff. Like there's no easy way to see that right now. So it's kind of, like I said, it's still really beta-y. So that's kind of just how it is. So yeah, and I think it was okay. I don't know. I'm not a huge battleground person, so it wasn't definitely something that's probably built for a player like me. It is a PvE thing, and you unlock it kind of similar if you played back in Legion on the Broken Shore, similar to the Broken Shore where you basically accumulate resources and then eventually unlock things like the Mage Tower and different buildings like that. This will work similar in that your faction needs to collect resources to trigger the Warfront. And once enough resources are collected, you can go to the capital city and basically queue up for it, just like a battleground or a scenario, dungeon, whatever you name it. So that's kind of, I don't think there's any information about how long the Warfront is controlled, but assuming similar to the Broken Shore, you'll basically collect enough resources, and in that scenario will be open for a few days or maybe even a week or so for you to complete on your characters and that kind of thing. The only other thing I'll mention, which is, again, this is still beta, so this might change, but after completing the Warfront, I didn't get anything. So you'll probably see it on the screen now. I wasn't actually present for the end of it. Like, I was back in the base, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, you're getting teleported out now. So assuming that meant that my team had cleared the base without me, so I wasn't quite sure what happened. There wasn't a victory screen or anything. I didn't get any rewards. And I'll put a link in the description to the Wowhead article on Warfronts, because they go over different things that you get. Like there's armor, like different transmog pieces for obviously cloth mail, plate, leather, all that stuff. But as far as that goes, I don't see any, like, outside of what they've talked about at BlizzCon, you know, what you get for rewards is kind of whatever. So I think that's something that could be kind of clarified a bit. I'm not quite sure what the motivation is for doing this. Like, I didn't get Azerite. I didn't get anything like that. I think that would probably be something to help motivate players to want to do this. I'm assuming Azerite is probably going to be the thing to go, and then you'll get these transmog pieces as kind of a side thing. But I'm not sure. I'll say from like a Shadow Priest perspective, this kind of felt like kind of weird to me. I don't know. It wasn't the best experience, I'd say, overall. It was kind of boring. And I didn't feel super strong as a Shadow Priest. Moreover, that's just kind of how Shadow plays right now. Like, I definitely didn't feel like I was able to solo like packs of troops coming in from the Alliance side. I definitely needed troops around me. Whether or not that's a Shadow thing or just how Warfronts work in general, I wasn't too... That was kind of the weirdest part for me, I'd say. And there were some kind of mechanics that required you to have like a vehicle, otherwise it went really, really slow. But there's only a max of 3 vehicles. So you kind of got stuck in this case of, you know, if someone took a vehicle but wasn't quite sure what to do with it, it felt like it slowed it down a lot more than it should have. And then you're kind of stuck, you know, doing the work that a vehicle should be doing on your character, which just makes things go slower. And then there are various mechanics that just one-shot me because of how much health I have. And I think it was just everyone was getting... Like, if you got too close to the base before you took out all the fortresses, you just got one-shot obliterated. So, I don't know. There was some still kind of weirdness there. But I think for me, it was just kind of a... I'm not gonna be super motivated to do this kind of content. It didn't really speak to me. Like, I'd rather do a dungeon or something like that, personally. Or honestly, I think I'd rather just go into a BG. I'm not a big PvP person, but I think this is kind of like, I don't know, it's half PvE, half PvP to me, and the PvE mechanics in Battlegrounds have never been anything to, you know, cry home about. It's not that crazy good, but they kind of just added it into a PvE only scenario, so I don't know, it felt a little lackluster to me, so I'll wait to see whatever they do next, so I'll be looking forward to that. But yeah, if they ever open up Warfronts again, I'll do more testing and kind of do a round 2 of this. But guys, that's all I have on Warfronts for right now. So this concludes this video. If you have any suggestions on things you'd like to see on the beta, whether it's Shadow Priest related or other classes, or how endgame, all kinds of stuff, leave a comment in the description or comment on this video and let me know what you'd like to see next. All right, guys, see you in the next one.